Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we are going to talk specifically about provisioning Lord of the Rings play in Dungeons & Dragons today. Okay, so first of all, we have never had an official Dungeons & Dragons D&D canon hardback. You hear me use that term all the time, right? D&D canon hardback. And the reason why is that's when it's real. That's when it is 100% unmitigated full permissioning from Hasbro and from Tolkien, right? If we get a D&D canon hardback with Lord of the Rings, we can run D&D canon hardback, and we could do that now, right? You can run a Lord of the Rings with Dungeons & Dragons right now. But when you do it, right, what's going to happen is one of your players is going to be thrilled. You have 4 players, right? One of your players is going to be thrilled and is going to be so happy and is going to be thankful, right? And and 2 of your players are like, oh, this is exciting, I'm going to enjoy the story. And one of your players is going to be frowning the whole time. And the reason why is they're like, well, you know, I don't really like the way you built Frodo. I don't really like the way you built, the way you built Sauron. I think your depiction of the ring is wrong, right? And the reason why is they're like, you don't have the permissioning of the Tolkien estate, and you don't have the permissioning of D&D, and I don't really know what this would look like in real air quotes D&D, right? And so you always have this one player that's frowning, and that's what the permissioning does. Is it gives you a full table of smilers, right? And you would love to be like, well, that guy's just a jerk, but that lady who's just a jerk who says that this isn't official D&D and this isn't official Tolkien. But the reality is, here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. Guess what? Some of the most engaging people in the world are all jerks. Like, there's no super nice billionaires, right? I just did a video that there's a guy on, you can find the YouTube video, and he's like, all the greatest designers are all jerks. There's other people who are like, all the greatest artists are all jerks, right? Like, and so you could say that person's a jerk, but they actually might be the smartest, most engaging, most innovative, most creative, most emotionally interesting person at your table, right? Because the reality is, nice people finish last and generally don't create much, right? Arneson was super nice. That guy sucked. In my humble opinion, his name does not deserve to be 100 feet away from Gary Gygax's name. Gary gave everything to make Dungeons & Dragons a reality. Arneson gave nothing, right? Like, nice people suck, and they don't do anything, right? Like, the most creative, most engaging, most innovative people in the world are all jerks. It's the structure of it, and why is that? Well, the designer conversation was like, hey, if you don't believe in your vision when nobody else does, you're never going to get it there. You have to be the first person to say. Everybody who creates anything of value in this world, they're like, the whole world can go kick rocks. Everybody told me this couldn't be done. I told them you can go kick rocks. That's why you get jerks who create and get jerks who are highly engaging. And that's why you can't ignore that frowning person who's like, well, this isn't official, right? And so why we need, Lord of the Rings. So what's interesting is Magic Gathering, Lord of the Rings, right? It doesn't 100% canon connect Lord of the Rings to Dungeons & Dragons yet. It does a lot, right? I would say there's no question, it does about 80% of the job. One of the biggest things that it does is when they went to put the character type for Hobbit on these cards, they're like, oh no, don't make it Hobbit, make it the Dungeons & Dragons species, Halfling. And why can't we just call them Hobbits? Well, this is Magic the Gathering, and Magic the Gathering is canon to Dungeons & Dragons, and Halfling is a species in Dungeons & Dragons, and if we make it Halfling, these things can go right onto the Dungeons & Dragons table, right? Like, you know that Universe Beyond thing, that's just to troll the Hasbro suit Bob. That's not a real thing. We're not actually, we're fully connecting this by canon. We just don't have the permission to say it yet, right? That's the conversation, in my humble opinion, that was being had, right? But Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth, what it does do is it massively provisions, more than ever before, you are equipped by the Tolkien estate and by Hasbro, you are equipped, you are provisioned to run Magic to run D&D Lord of the Rings more than at any point in the history of the two games, right? Of Magic Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons, or the existence of the Lord of the Ring properties. And you know why? I've been doing this for ages, right? So Magic the Gathering cards are essentially, I need you to understand this. Magic the Gathering is not a separate product from Dungeons and Dragons, in my opinion. Every single set that is created for Magic the Gathering is simply an unbound book for Dungeons and Dragons. And each page is a card. It's an unbound book. That's all it is. And so what they just did, and that's pretty incredible and incredibly useful, because you could say, basically when you say, Gandalf shows up, right? If you run your own little hack, right, you just say Gandalf shows up. If you use the unbound pages that have just been printed for you by Tolkien Estate and by Magic the Gathering, you can put Gandalf down, right? And then you can put that instance of him, you can hand that to a player and give them a mechanical benefit because they have the Gandalf card, right? And I've been doing this for literally years, using Magic the Gathering cards as physical reminders of the story, right? And it literally helps you run the story better, and you are handing the characters, you are handing your non-player characters literally to your player characters, and each non-player character they meet of significance becomes a mechanical benefit to them. It's transformative. It transforms the way you will play Dungeons and Dragons forever. It is amazing. It is amazing, right? And so while Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth does not 100% canon connect it, it absolutely, in my humble opinion, massively provisions. It is a provisioning from the Tolkien Estate and a provisioning from Hasbro itself to play Dungeons and Dragons Lord of the Rings, right? And I think the reason they're doing this is because we're going to get that official D&D canon hardback 6, 12, or 18 months from now, in my humble opinion. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. I think the Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings, Tales of Middle-earth set makes a D&D loader canon hardback inevitable, in my humble opinion. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.